8:20 a.m. Yep. Nice clear skies, or so many people would state. And what have we got in our weather forecast for today? Sporadic periods of frozen precipitation. Tomorrow we're supposed to have a mixture of liquid and frozen precipitation sporadically. And, well, by this weekend, or, well, let's just say within 3-4 days, we're supposed to be warming up. Yeah, gotta love this genetic, or excuse me, geo-engineered programs that we have kicking off today, right? We'll get further into that just momentarily. Hang tight. 11 a.m. and we are interrupting the last little bit of my leg workout of the day to bring you a weather update. And yes, we have particles of frozen precipitation that, well, I'm not really seeing it coming down from above. Rather, I am seeing these little particles floating sideways, left to right, and floating upwards with very little wind movement or currents. Of course, we do have our little updrafts here. But yeah, I'm seeing more snowflakes floating upwards rather than coming down. We'll continue on shortly. 12:05 p.m. Oh boy, have I got some content lined up here. And yeah, we're gonna have some fun with this, okay? Because after all, hopefully we are not upside down here. Um, you know, I'm not sure whether this is a blessing or a curse to have this channel and to have been able to capture so many strange things in the sky, such as, well, what we just seen yesterday. Wow. Um, and if you have not already, please go over to my community postings. For those people that already have checked out, thank you kindly. But yeah, check out the images from yesterday that I put up over there on my community postings. So anyways, yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about, we're going to start off with the dire wolf. And, well, there was, as you've seen in the thumbnail, that came from mainstream media this morning. Okay? And we're going to go ahead and, like I said, number one, man, what a long, strange trip it's been for me. Okay? As far as my life, and especially over the last couple of years. A lot of connections have been made. And a lot of those connections, well, I asked the viewers to read between the lines and connect the dots that I provide. Because, I cannot come out and really state what's on my mind, okay? I've been attacked a lot because of my content. This, yes, will promote that much more possible attacks, okay? So, the dire wolf, they are bringing back from extinction, or have done so, okay? And I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, because, well, let me show you. I got quite a little bit of prop material here that I want to go through in order to make a couple of points. Okay, now if you will notice, the dire wolf is associated with whom? Yes, Vikings. Okay? And of course, the moon. Right? Okay, let's kind of go from there. Oh boy, here we go again. We have the oldest stories in the world, which of course this was created from these oldest stories. Okay? And through these and this, we come to this fella here, and with his prophecies. Okay? And within his prophecies, we are told through his quatrains that in the end times, animals will speak to man. Okay? And we've gone over this a little bit with the dolphins and so on and so forth. All right? But within these two reference materials here, and I've gone over this before, we have science that's involved. Okay? We are told through the oldest stories in the world and through this that, well, we had a supposed, and I'm just going to use the word God. I'd rather just use creator, okay? But for you people out there, I will use that terminology, God, okay? That did all this creating. But within the book of Genesis, chapter 2, we are told that the Lord God formed Adam. Adam basically means man or mankind. Okay? Lord God is not the God of the first chapter. Okay? Because if you go into, once again, a lot of the content material that I provide, not only in my videos, but in others' videos, to where they speak of the word Elohim and what that means, then you will understand this formation of man. Okay? But we are also told about evolution. Okay? Let's continue on from there. Okay, now they, according to, the theorization of evolution through Darwin, and mind you, good old Charlie Darwin, no, he was not the originator to the evolution theory. He learned that from his dad, okay? And that is something, that's really sad, is how they accredit certain people in the past for things that they have no rights for credit, okay? Now then, we are talking hominids here, right? Okay? And which they want to say that these hominids were the precursors to modern man. And there has been over 50 different types of hominids that have been discovered to this date. All right? Ooh, this is going to be something else, I'm telling you. All right, now I just want you to take a moment here and read this, okay? Okay, now, now let's go up here. Because to me, this is all relevant to today. Sorry, this is so shaky. Yeah. Okay, you got that? Okay, so this is from 2007. Okay? And, well, do you remember a lot of narratives about this? Okay? I'm not going to go into that, but yeah, we'll probably get there at some point. I don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and take a leap from archaeology to space, the space age. Once again, I am working with, some very old magazines here. Okay. Now, we just had the return of two astronauts that were stranded in space, one male, one female, for 9 months. Upon their return and thereafter, these two people have become whistleblowers, speaking out against certain factors of Boeing as well as NASA. They have become two witnesses. Now, I had it in mind that yes, they would make it back to Earth, but not in one piece. Because of, well, we had in the past space shuttle incidences, right? As well as the Gemini capsule incident, right? And I could go on and on with more about Gemini, okay, and all the connections thereof. But I want to try not to branch off too much because there's so much to be connected here. Just unbelievable. All right. So, anyways, let's continue on with the return of these two. Have you seen the changes that took place to the female? Now, I just loosely call them Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Okay. Yeah, I think I'd be a little upset too. Now then, what does this have to do with the past through archaeology and the future? Space. Well, let's look at this. NASA's what? Blast into orbit. Noah's Ark. Okay? 93. Okay? We know that through these so-called space missions, there has been a lot of top secret payloads that has been going up there, whether to the International Space Station or possibly elsewhere. A lot of experiments take place up there, right? Okay, and here we got what? What? Noah's Ark. Now I'm not going to go into this. And believe it or not, people, most of these magazines I've never read the articles they're in. Okay? So I just want to point that out. But let's continue on. Okay, so yeah, we're going to a big book of strange stories and amazing facts. And yeah, we got a picture here, lovely lunar picture, right? But let's go ahead and flip back one page here. And, well, we have one day in the year, 2136 BC, a hungry dragon tried to eat the sun. Okay. And it's talking about an eclipse. Okay. So within this book, they talk about the Big Bang. And which he vividly described as a super dense cosmic egg. Gee, eggs have been part of my content quite a lot here lately, for one reason or another. And, well, within the UFO realm, what have they been talking about here lately? Okay. Now then, let's go down here just a little bit. And facts about our neighbors. And we have a dog star. Okay. Okay. We have Hercules, a giant. The smallest yet detected is Wolf, 437. Okay. Just here recently, I entitled a video, Sly as a Fox. And here we have this: when your home is possessed by foxes. And yeah. Okay, so we're going canine. Okay? Right? We're going to try to stick with the canine theme. But we're going to connect it with, well, space, right? Okay, so experimentations out in space, 9 months. And we have the dire wolves, in which they were well, what they've come out with today, which has been going on for years now. And you have to remember some of the other subject material that has come up throughout the years. We have a lot of genetic modifications and manipulations out there. We have geoengineering. We have the G words. G. Okay? Genetics. Okay? That's what this movie here is about. Gene splicing, hybridizations. Okay? And this is what they have been doing for quite a few years now. And you have to understand that there's a gestational period that has to take place for these new creatures to evolve, if you will, such as the dire wolves. And what they have to do is basically take DNA samplings from the extinct wolves, combine them with DNA that's close enough, and to have the have a fertilization taking place. But then you have to have a surrogate parent or mother. Okay? This is how they created these dire wolves, from ancient DNA through remains, if you will, in combination with DNA, eggs, and all that. It's all test tube. They've been working on this for years, people. Okay? Now go back to the Bill Clinton days, to where he signed an executive order that there's to be no cloning of humans. But where's the loophole? Oh, genetic hybridization, genetic modification through splicing together DNA materials in order to bring forth new or old species, but they're hybrids, right? Okay. So within these two books, we have stories of creations and formations, and in both of them, regardless of its the stories of the Anunnaki, the Nephilim, which yeah, stories in both, right? Mm-hmm. And which is according to the Sumerian stories, which of course is made up of four other peoples, the Babylonians and the Hittites and okay, yeah. But they talk about these gods that come from outer space that in fact created what we know of as man today, which is very similar to chapter 2 in this book. Okay, so we are talking about outside forces that came in and did some genetic hybridization from what was already here. What are we told through evolution, or the theory thereof? That we evolved from the apes. Because after all, this was once, at one period of time, the planet of the apes. And how did this fictional movie come about? Once again, through this narrative. Okay? What else? Well, let's go just a little bit further. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. There could be a little bit of a difference in storyline here, but they keep messing around. You know, they keep talking about Jurassic Park, right? Okay. So let's go just even further with this because we once again we have to go back to the past and to this, you know, genetic hybridization programs that was occurring in different countries. Oh no, no, not just in, you know, the Middle East. No. Okay. Now we go back further within archaeology and myths, legends, hieroglyphic stories, and so on and so forth. Within, you know, the realm of Egyptology, we hear a lot about these certain guys that were hybrids, half human, half animal, right? Okay, so let's, and which, okay, Anubis was a jackal, again, another form of a canine, okay, right there. Oh no, that's a cat. What is that? Where is that? Yeah, that's a cat. Okay, and of course, cats, your domestic animals, they were like us. They were create or formed. Okay, I don't see a jackal on here. Anyways, let's continue on with this little theme because once again, hybrid humans, if you will, gods. Okay, so we go from the foxes to man's best friends. But if you will read a little bit, legend of a breed of men with dogs' heads. Okay, and of course we also have like the dog man or the Michigan dog man. We have okay in Greece. Okay, this was North American Indians. The Greek. We have Marco Polo that was talking about them. Okay, Saint Christopher, known here. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, But, gee, there's something else that we need to add in. The Sasquatch, the Yeti, Bigfoot. Okay. Now, speaking of Bigfoot, you know, a lot of witness sightings and witness accounts and so on and so forth speak of the size of these so-called creatures, cryptid creatures, right? Have you ever heard of the Bigfoot that was 30 foot tall, that was manifested through science and through that Montauk facility? Oh yeah, it wreaked havoc, and that is what shut down that facility, believe it or not, because it destroyed the radar systems, and oh, it wreaked havoc. Yeah. Now when you get talking about this kind of stuff, or you have encounters, well, it's possible that you might have another encounter, right? And remember, all kinds of creatures here. We're talking space and secret operations. Okay, so real quick refresher. We have genetic hybridization through test tube experimentations in order to create new lives, right? We've got these same stories that, goes back to the first stories ever recorded. We got the stories here. Who's been involved? We have priests. We have stories of the Crusaders, the Knights Templar, the Red Cross. Okay. And we have hybrids. Okay, these are 3 different movies here. But, yeah, there's lessons to be learned. Through these lessons, and through certain understandings, signs will start being presented. And this is an alien movie. And it also has to do with water, to where this little girl here would not drink the water because there's something wrong with it. Well, now we have this fluoride campaign kicking off, right? Or anti-fluoride campaign. So what would it be like if they were to come here and set up shop? Colonies. Huh. Right? Would there be battles? But of course, in these times, there's been certain other sightings in the sky. um, okay, now then, I've had dreams of this. Back when I was 6 years old, 7 years old, I would have astral projections during my sleep. For many years, I have a reoccurring dream of where I'm not flying, but I am levitating above the ground amongst people. And basically gliding and sliding on the air. Joe Rogan just came out not too long ago, or the channel Joe Rogan Experience, or one of those channels that involves Joe Rogan, and which it's about these African tribal people that levitate. But of course, this also happens in India and other places. I have that power, I just have not unleashed it yet. But I gotta say, it is a feeling like no other. You know, the weightlessness. Kind of like what astronauts get to experience. So, with these genetic experimentations, we have new breeds. Could this be one of those breeds? Because these have been reported throughout the ages. Now then, according to a lot of files out there, these things have been hunted through secret operations and recovery missions, right? And we've heard that about the giant in Afghanistan and Mount St. Helens with you know with helicopters going in, supposedly picking up a Bigfoot or two. I think this was back when Mount St. Helens blew her top, or afterwards, right? So we have all these stories of these creatures, these cryptids being hunted throughout the years. Where'd they come from? Anamorphia. Fun book. Fun book. Okay, let's go ahead and flip this section here. And, oh, we got the wolves. We have these stars and clouds. But what else do we have within this wolf pack here? We also have these little aliens, right? Which I guess they could be, genetic symbols? I brought this book up before. And how I've read into these illustrations. Much like how I read into this book here. Okay, so they want to keep bringing up encounters from other dimensions. Okay? Now pay attention. Okay? Pay attention. Time goes round and round like a loop, a time loop. I've been privy enough to understand certain aspects about time. And, you know, through certain, what should I say? Well, just note the time. Time. Where's my inspiration come from? Where's my thoughts? My expansion of thoughts about time and everything else. Okay? Let's just wander. Let your minds wander. For some reason, my life over the last few years, 2 years, yeah, because of that spiritual transformation, and over the last 2 years, I've been dealing with cats. And what do we have here? A clock work cat. Hmm. Okay. Remember, you just connect the dots, people. Read between the lines. I'm not going to explain it all. So, wow, when it comes down to fact and fiction, fantasy versus reality, and understanding technology, the digital age, and that everything is something and nothing, right? Just like that symbol that NASA uses, the forked tongue, double meanings. Okay? There is never one answer to any question because everything is something and nothing. Now, ooh, let's talk about control. People want to talk about, you know, the Matrix. I speak on the time loop. You ever watch this movie here? Oh, it's a fun one to watch because it is wicked twisted fun, and it will. I mean, it's not only entertaining, but it'll put your mind in a spin, especially with the ending. Okay, Mind Talk, 4 hour interview from 1989 with those that have professed to be part of those Mind Talk experiments. That was many, many experiments. I mean, we are talking the bizarre. We are talking weather modification, time travel, um, MK Ultra controlling of the minds. Um, oh, but here you go. Yes, I do believe in other dimensions, but are we actually having encounters from other dimensions? Or are we just encountering our dimension as it crosses over, such as like within that infinity symbol? And when on its side, it looks like a letter 8, or number 8, excuse me. But basically, once you take the twist out of it, it becomes a circle or a loop, a time loop. So maybe this is where we really go to the extreme. Maybe it's not flat Earth. Maybe it's not a spherical Earth. It doesn't really matter. But maybe we are trapped within a sphere. Hmm. Because spheres seems to be very iconic here recently, right? So from the past to the future, right? Much like Albert Einstein, I think it was Albert Einstein that stated, eventually mankind would go back to fighting wars with sticks and stones. So, what does my content on this channel consist of? Alright? And I wanted to delve into this so much deeper, but this is already going on 40 minutes long, and I've been pausing. But I think I brought enough to the table, enough connections that can be made, especially have you been paying attention, not only to this channel and the content therein, but with those news reports. Oh, by the way, do you know what news? Did you know that that is actually an abbreviation of North, East, West, and South? Yeah, isn't that some news? So, from the past into the future and back to the future again. Yeah. Are you starting to see a little bit more? Okay, I'm gonna end it there. Um, and more than likely, this is going to be the extent of today's content. So, if you have joined in and watched all of this, I appreciate it. Let me know what you think. I'll leave the comment section open for this one. Otherwise, take care of yourselves, take care of one another, and we'll see you back here on the split side. Well, my apologies. One last thing that I need to bring to the table to clarify through a little bit more explanation is okay, so we have a lot of experimentations that have been going on in outer space. We have a lot of this genetic manipulations that's been going on in many, many various forms. We have seen proof of how long term exposure to weightlessness in outer space, or at least low Earth orbit and all that, how that greatly affects the body. Okay, and this is through, I mean, just recently with Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid's return, and how her chin grew. Okay, and you can find videos out there on that. Okay, and there's a lot of other documented testimonies through past astronauts of their bodies um, gaining height and then shrinking once coming back here to the gravitational field and all that good stuff. So basically, you know, if man wants to travel long periods of time and over great distances in space, there's some more obstacles that needs to be overcome, and which humans need to have their bodies changed in order to deal with certain aspects of issues such as weightlessness and how it affects the body, right? Because, well, you can't. We've already found out that what is it called? Cryogenics, being frozen. That might not be the way to travel through space. Okay. In fact, it might be easier just to have genetically modified humans that have been formed to exist in space. And not only that, but their children, other future generations that can naturally adapt to space travel. But of course, then there would be, once again, the touchdown. And then you would have to re alter once again. Well, I guess you would have plenty of time to work out all those fun little details before coming back and starting all over again. Hmm. There's recycled events throughout history. There's also the time loop, which is constantly recycling. Yeah, okay. We'll leave it there. And once again, um, yeah, maybe I've given you some things to think about. Otherwise, take care of yourselves, take care of one another, and we'll see you once again back here on this flip side.